Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we still do have yellow rain warnings issued for parts of Wales, Scotland, as we do have some more heavy batches of rain. These rain warnings are mainly over the higher ground for orographic rainfall, where we do see the moisture rise over higher ground and get some relief rainfall, so mainly over hills and mountainous areas, but there will still be heavy rain around widely, with continuous batches of precipitation moving through, as you can see on the live radar right now. We'll run through the UKV after that and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature for the next 5 days, as it still looks generally unsettled. A lot of heavy frontal systems moving in and some stronger winds as well, and the temperatures mainly look mild in the south and sort of average, maybe cooler than average further northwards. We'll then have a look at the longer range, look at the GFS, GEM, ECMWF and the ensembles as we do head through January. We still see repeated signals for a bit of a pattern change towards the middle of the month. It is starting to get hints at sort of the day 10 time frame, so we can see hints of a bit of a pattern change from the GEM and the ECMWF today, but nothing too substantial yet, with that pattern change being blocking returning to the northern hemisphere. The capacity of that blocking, the positioning, and what it will do to our weather, we still have got really no clue exactly. But we're seeing different examples today. The GFS could turn us colder beyond day 10. The GEM generally has the jet stream shifted further southwards, so keeping us on the cool side of the jet stream, but nothing crazy cold. Similar with the ECMWF. So we'll have to keep an eye on what happens through the middle of the month. But it definitely does look like there will be a bit of a pattern change. But what happens to our actual day-to-day weather, we'll have to wait and see, but of course we'll have a look at it today. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So you start on the live radar, you can see just widespread heavy rain at the moment, and where you're in between the showers, in between the heavy rain, there are a few showers around, drizzle, and generally thick gloomy cloud. These sort of conditions really makes January pretty depressing, with very little daylight out there. Have noticed it today. It's gloomy when you get up. It gets a bit light around midday. By the time I'm recording this, around 3 p.m, it's starting to get properly dark outside. So it is really not pleasant conditions. Big contrast to yesterday, where we did see sunshine for many. That was a much more pleasant day for me, where I am at least. It's staying generally light till about 4:30 with sunset at 4, so you're getting an extra hour or two out of the day. So yeah, really quite horrible conditions, let alone the gloominess, just the heavy rain causing flooding issues as well. And again, pretty much nowhere is escaping it. There are a few dry patches here, but they have seen rain earlier today, and we'll probably see rain later today, with more of this heavier precipitation moving up from the southwest, with earlier weather fronts out in the North Sea now. And this is just going to be the repeating pattern over the course of the next few days. And again, we will see dry spells at times, but nothing too substantial. If you were to put on the temperatures as of around 3 p.m, you can see it is generally a mild day in the south and the west, cooler in the north. Again, nothing crazy in terms of cold conditions, but generally average to below average, with mid to low single digits across Scotland. Again, not too unusual for this time of year. Further southwards, it's really quite mild. All of these yellow conditions coming in, so a good few degrees above yesterday, which was generally average conditions for the time of year. We're seeing temperatures around that sort of 8 to 10 degree mark widely, perhaps a degree or two higher than that in a few spots. So yeah, generally not a particularly great day. Milder, but it's not feeling all too great out there, with gusty winds and heavy rain around. If you go over to the weather warnings, you can see we've got multiple rain warnings issued for parts of Wales and Scotland. Again, mainly over the higher ground, so you can see we've got weather warnings for Brecon Beacons, Snowdonia area, parts of southern Scotland, and then again just the general Highlands and Grampians area as well. So mainly over higher ground, but even low-lying areas will see some disruptive rainfall as well. And if you focus in on these warnings, it's from 7 p.m. tonight until 3 a.m. tomorrow. So that heavy rain we can see in the southwest is only going to pep up over the course of this evening, and these areas could see some flooding problems. 15 to 25 millimetres expected to fall widely. A few places could see this amount could fall in 3 to 4 hours, and some higher ground may see 40 to 50 millimetres. High end of the likelihood, lower end of the impact. Same warning across North Wales. Different warning for southern Scotland. This is from 2 p.m. today until 6 a.m. tomorrow, so the warning's already into effect. Occasional heavy rain with thaw of lying hail snow. So this is more from probably from the thaw of that snow that we have seen quite a lot of over the last few weeks. Again, not too unusual for this time of year. The milder weather thawing the snow is the unusual part of some of these higher ground areas. Accumulations widely of 15 to 25 millimetres again, and areas could see as much as 50 millimetres. Again, the individual rainfall totals are nothing too spectacular, but these areas are pretty sodden now. We've seen repeated bouts of precipitation. I said about a week or two ago, this sort of rain wouldn't cause too much issue in itself, but if we did see a lot of saturation, then it could cause issues. And we are starting to get to that level now where we're starting to see environmental agency warnings come into force for river flooding, as the rain is just relentless. Again, we do see this happen most years, but of course every year it is of course causing issues, and we'll just have to see what happens. Hopefully the coming weeks things will get a little bit drier, perhaps colder as well, which will help reduce this sort of burden on the rivers and the saturation of the ground. But of course, we're not looking at that for at least a week now. So yeah, still going to see these issues, and I suspect we will see more rainfall warnings over the coming days. If we do now go over to the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, you can see that heavy rain spreading through at the moment and continue to push through tonight. Increased intensity around 7-8 p.m. this evening, so real heavy rain moving through. Again, will be disruptive in terms of not only coming out of the sky, heavy precipitation causing low visibility, gusty conditions, hazard for driving, just generally being outside, but then the flooding issues as well. Through Tuesday evening, that precipitation will continue to move further northwards and eastwards, and you can see as we head to around midnight, see a bit of a hook in the low pressure system in the north. Could be some very gusty winds along that with this lower pressure system and these bright colours, yellows, oranges and reds there. Intense precipitation again could cause some issues. As we head through into tomorrow morning, things should brighten up, especially in the south and the west. For many, 8-9 a.m. tomorrow, it should be drier. Still could be some lingering thick cloud and some precipitation, especially through northern England and Northern Ireland, but most areas are turning a bit drier. And tomorrow generally looks like a generally dry day. By 3 p.m, still those showers in the north of England and Northern Ireland, parts of southern Scotland, but again, most areas are pretty decent. Again, though, this is just a temporary lull, and precipitation will be moving back in for Thursday inevitably, and you can see the heavy rain starting to arrive from the west by the morning. So for most waking up on Thursday, it will be dry, but gloomy, drizzly, and rain ready to pounce in from the west, and you can see the heavy rain moving through by Thursday evening. So Thursday for the day, it probably won't be pouring down in most areas, perhaps in the north and the west. You can see there weather fronts coming in. Again, timings could be delayed slightly, so we'll have to see. But most areas, it will just be very cloudy, drizzly and gloomy. Through the evening, though, the heavy rain pushes through. Could be a bit of a squall feature along that, so you can see some brighter colours falling in a line there through central England, and then just generally a lot of heavy rain in the north. And then as we head into Friday, it could actually be another dry day, so pretty decent here, seeing the weather fronts are lining up with the nighttime period. Again, that's the best thing you can kind of hope for when we see this sort of pattern, is getting the precipitation to fall overnight and not in the day when people want to be out and about doing stuff. So here again, Thursday for most in central and eastern areas, it looks pretty decent, but for the far west, through Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland and Wales, it could rain in the afternoon, and then eventually that rain heads through overnight, and then as we head into Saturday morning, the rain will linger through the far south and southeast for clearing through the afternoon and leaving a lot of heavy, perhaps even thundery showers behind, with some brighter colours appearing there. And then again, another very showery pattern through Sunday. Slightly cooler conditions could come in the north there, a bit of snow over the higher ground. Again, that's not too unusual for this time of year. That is pretty normal, but the milder conditions we're seeing at the moment are the unusual parts. But I do definitely think it will turn more seasonable beyond the next few days, as those upper air temperatures do return more towards average. Still will be generally mild towards the surface, but again, won't be anything too ridiculous. If we do look at the max temperatures, you'll be able to see that this afternoon temperatures widely, as I said, were around that 8 to 10 degree mark, perhaps 11 or 12 in a few spots, especially through the Republic of Ireland. Scotland, though, hovering around the low single digits, again, pretty normal for this time of year. Overnight tonight, many areas are very mild. 10 to 12 degrees, could even be milder than the daytime temperatures, with a big wedge of milder air within that low pressure system. And by tomorrow afternoon, a very small diurnal range, if anything at all, with temperatures remaining around 10 to 12 degrees. Still cold across Scotland, of course, as I said at the start of the video, cold in the north, mild in the south. Again, we've got slightly cooler than average air just embedded there, and it just means that those temperatures are going to stay relatively cool. Again, not too unusual for this time of year. Through Thursday, temperatures overnight will drop a little bit cooler. Into Thursday morning, it will drop a bit cooler. And by Thursday afternoon, another warm sector moves in, so 10 to 12 degrees cold across Scotland. And then as we head into Friday, cooler overnight and into the day, a generally average day, really, sort of 6 to 8 degrees, maybe locally 8 or 9 in the south. But again, a little bit more seasonable there, but again, still probably average to slightly above average. And then into Saturday, much more seasonable in a day in the north and west. Temperatures widely around that sort of 5 to 7 degree mark, average for this time of year really, but the south and the east more towards 9 or 10, but that cooler air will drift in. I'm expecting a lot more of these sort of 6-7 degree high days as we head into towards the middle of the month. Regardless if it does get very cold, it's definitely going to be probably returning to a much more sort of seasonable conditions or average conditions. So if you are sick of this much milder weather and you want something a little bit fresher feeling, then that will be coming soon. And of course, if you want some snow as well, of course, drifting towards those cooler temperatures, it does bring in that possibility as well. So if you go through the longer range now, we'll be able to see what is causing this mild conditions at the moment and why it will turn probably cooler in around a week's time, and as we head towards the middle of the month in general. Now you see the ice bars there across the south are tilted to the southwest, and that's why it is pretty mild at the moment. Cooler in the north, as we are in Scotland to the north side of the jet stream, where the black line is roughly. And as over the next few days, you generally see the precipitation moving in, that black line over the top of us. But as we head towards the weekend, you see that black line drops to our south, and we're to the north side of the jet stream. It allows cooler air to come in later later this weekend. Into early next week, and that's why I say inevitably in about a week's time it's going to be turning cooler. And you can see that generally we're below freezing at 850 HPA. There will still be milder sectors coming in, and you can see in around sort of 8-9 days time, mild sector coming in, but we are generally more in the greens, showing temperatures average to below average. And at day 10 you can see the jet stream really is much further to our south, and with the main bulk of it going through parts of northern Spain into parts of France. And generally at 300 hours, we're cool. Nothing spectacularly cold. The jet stream's sort of doing some very wiggly sort of pattern here, and you can see towards the northern hemisphere more blocking starting to appear. Again, would not take this too literally, but this is the general theme for day 10 to day 14, is for some sort of high pressure system to start developing towards Scandinavia, the Arctic, Svalbard, Greenland, and could start to influence us. We haven't seen any bitterly cold charts yet, but the GFS has repeatedly shown this, and the ensemble members are trending below average for this period. So definitely looking at a pattern change, definitely getting some more high pressure blocking, but you can see the purples towards North Canada and Greenland are not getting displaced too much. So regardless of what happens, it's going to have a real fight against a strong westerly momentum coming out of North America. And we do see this pattern here where higher pressure is trying to build up to our north and our east, but the Atlantic systems keep trying to push in, and we're sort of on the periphery of colder conditions here. Putting the upper air temperatures, there's cold air to our east, nothing bitterly cold, but generally average to below average. A huge cold pool though building towards Eastern Europe and Western Russia, and that could come our way if we did properly get a block going. But here we're sort of in between weather systems, not a full-blown blocking easterly winds, but regardless of that, it would still be cool, but not seeing a full-blown westerly either. Sort of in between battleground situation appearing here. But this is the consistent theme we're seeing for longer term, and that's why a lot of people are highlighting, definitely looking at a pattern change towards the middle of the month, around that sort of maybe 12th to 15th of January point. So around 10 days time, we're looking likely to see that jet stream definitely shift further southwards and maybe blocking coming back in, maybe introducing northerly or easterly flows. Now, if we see what the GEM is showing up until day 10, again, you can see the jet stream over the top of us over the next few days before eventually it dives further southwards next week. It does have small increments pushing in, giving slightly milder air masses, but towards day 10, you can see the jet stream as well to our south. Cooler conditions are pretty much taking over with generally average to below average temperatures. You can look at the upper air temperatures there, generally in the blues in the North Atlantic. And you look at the Northern Hemisphere view, there is starting to show some blocking towards Scandinavia, but again, nothing actually too substantial here at all. But just general signs of things shifting, with that jet stream shifting slightly further southwards. Again, not showing anything near as blocked as the GFS was showing, but definitely showing the jet stream shifting southwards and us on an unsettled pattern still, but probably cooler with that. If you look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare. Again, a generally very Atlantic-driven period. Eventually, the jet stream does push to our south in around a week's time, and we stay generally in those cooler northwesterly pattern. You can see the upper air temperatures, brief milder sectors coming at times, but we're generally more into those greens, and the upper air temperatures are more in those blues towards that period as well. You can see generally below average there, small increments of yellow there within the milder sectors, but of course it won't actually feel all too mild towards the surface because it'll be accompanied by thick cloud and precipitation. If you look to the Northern Hemisphere view and look at the 500 HPA, you can see areas of high pressure trying to penetrate up from North America and from Russia as well. Again, not producing anything cold for the UK, but just showing that higher pressure is likely to try and penetrate into the Arctic towards the middle of the month. Again, indicating a chance of a pattern change here, but of course we will have to see what happens. No huge indications at this stage, no concrete data on what could be happening, but we definitely do think there will be a bit of a pattern change towards the middle of the month. Hopefully, whatever happens in the Northern Hemisphere with the return of some Arctic blocking can shift the pattern we have at the moment, but of course it can be blocks in the Arctic and we can still see westerlies, so we'll have to see what happens in the longer term. If you go to the ensembles though, you can see they are all trending generally colder from the middle of the month onwards. You can see very much above average over the course of the next 5 days, but as I said, as we head towards the weekend, we're going to be returning more towards average, and you can see there is a bit of a pattern there for a milder sector through on the 11th, 12th to around 8-9 days time, but generally we are average all the way to around the middle of the month. Slightly above, slightly below. Again, probably will actually turn out maybe slightly cooler than average in the north, maybe slightly milder than average in the south. You can see though, around the 15th we trend below average, considerably below average by quite a few ensemble members. No huge bitterly cold runs yet, but we are definitely seeing cooler conditions, perhaps easterlies or northerly winds coming in. And the average ensemble member gets down sort of -4 degrees there, which is not amazingly cold, but it's a lot colder than anything we have at the moment or in the next sort of week or two. So definitely trending colder in the longer term, but remaining very unsettled. You look at the dew points, definitely trending cooler around that mid-month period. Again, indicating cooler, more probably continental or polar air masses coming in. And if we compare it to the ECMWF ensemble members, so you can see for London, we're generally over the course of the next 5 days, we're above average, and then we trend much more towards average, maybe slightly above, maybe slightly below at times, but a lot of precipitation around. So the general theme from the ECMWF ensembles and the GFS and majority of the models is for it to be mild the next 5 days. Trending cooler from the weekend as the jet stream shifts further southwards, and that pattern looks to continue all the way to the middle of the month. So generally average, maybe below average, especially further northwards, but probably southwards at times as well, and we'll just have to see how those temperatures do balance out. Remaining very unsettled, and we could see a pattern change towards the middle of the month, around the sort of 13th, 15th, 17th sort of point, perhaps blocking returning. What it will do to us, whether it will directly influence us, or just keep the jet stream further southwards, or pull in northerlies or easterlies, we can't say for certain yet, as there is very little consistency at all from the models. We're not seeing any ridiculously cold runs yet, so haven't got that on the cards, but that is the potential there if we did see that substantial blocking come in. But at the moment, we are really looking towards the middle of the second half of the month for anything other than westerly conditions. Yes, it does look like it will be turning cooler westerly, more of a northwesterly pattern, but fairly westerly for the next week or two at least, probably. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully we do see a bit of a pattern change, because not only is this very wet, windy conditions, not particularly pleasant at all, it's pretty boring as well to be looking from a weather standpoint. It's just pretty much same old, 10 degrees in the day, and batches of heavy rain coming in, much prefer it, and we've got a bit more variability, even if it's not snowing or bitterly cold, even if we just saw some higher pressure coming in with a bit of frost and fog and colder conditions, a bit crisp skies, blue skies, or even if we did see a bit of interesting conditions with some snow or colder shots, that sort of stuff, not only for a bit of variability in terms of our actual weather and being better than this drab sort of conditions, it's a bit more interesting from observing the models as well. So hopefully we do see a bit of a pattern change, but we inevitably always see this sort of pattern every year. We get a few weeks of this wet and windy conditions. Just hopefully we can break out of it and not a repeat of a year like 2020, where it just went on all the way through January, February, eventually breaking in March. But by that time, we're into the lockdowns and pretty much end of winter. So, yeah, hopefully we do see a bit of a pattern change coming. There are signs of it. We'll just have to see. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.